Hi, I'm here today with my friend Jess Petrie, and we want to welcome you to the very first, the maiden voyage of Extraordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things. It's a celebration of people and connecting during these challenging times. And Jess, thank you for joining us from Maine.
So happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you, because I had this idea and I was telling Jess about it, and I said, what do you think? Are you up for the challenge? Because I remembered my summers growing up where there was nothing to do. It kind of feels a little bit like this now. And my sister and I wanted, we got a cassette recorder and we would just interview people. And so kind of from that idea and the fun we had and the connections we made with people, I really saw that it was very similar to what we're going through now. So I wanted to bring Jess up here because she has this amazing yoga studio and yoga practice that I thought everybody should hear about. She just has a real way of connecting people and kind of just filling you up in the morning, and you can find your direction and just get that balance in the day. So thanks so much for joining, Jess.
Happy to be here.
So I have a couple questions. Are you up for them?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one is, as you all heard, she is just an amazing yoga instructor, and it's something she started, I don't know, how many years ago?
2 years ago.
I can't, 2 years ago. And she's up in Maine, so this is really unique because normally I wouldn't be able to go to her classes because I'm in the Boston area. But because of this challenging situation we're in during the pandemic, everybody's reaching out through Zooms and other ways to connect. So through social media, we've been able to connect, and I've been able to attend her classes, and it makes such a difference for me. So thank you for that, Jess. But I wanted you to share with everybody, and also me, because you've told me once before, your story. How, like, what's happened in your path and in your life to get to where you are now being a yogi?
Well, I started practicing yoga in my 20s. I lived out in San Francisco, and I began my yoga practice with Bikram yoga, which is hot yoga. And I just fell in love with it. It was a great physical practice for my body and also a really good mental challenge for me to focus. So very quickly when I started doing yoga, I naturally wanted to have a daily practice. So I did a lot of yoga in my 20s, a lot of hot yoga in my 20s, and this is when I was in graduate school, and it really helped me focus and concentrate on my schoolwork. And then I had my kids in my 30s, and I did yoga whenever I could. And after I'd had my first 2 kids, I went to a yoga retreat. And I left that yoga retreat just feeling totally renewed, totally relaxed, being a young mom. And it was a long drive home. And the whole way home, my mind was on fire about running away and becoming a yoga teacher. I didn't run away.
I love that.
And during that pregnancy, I had an injury that after my 3rd son was born, so I have 3 boys who are now 13, 10, and just turned 7, but yay. And so the end of that 3rd pregnancy, I suffered an injury that really left me physically quite uncomfortable for a long time after the pregnancy ended. But I kept coming back to my yoga mat. I still had this goal and passion in my mind for pursuing my yoga teacher training. And as soon as it worked for our family, which was years later after my 3rd child had been born, as soon as it was more of a possibility for my body again, I did it. And doing the yoga teacher training was a very healing experience for me. I kept a daily practice, and it got my body moving in ways it hadn't been able to move in a really long time. It also helped calm me down. As the more self-study that I do, I realize I'm a really anxious person. And so yoga.
Funny, I don't see that at all.
Yeah. Well, the yoga definitely helps me keep it in control. The breath work of yoga is really great for calming the nervous system, and vinyasa, which is the type of yoga I teach, really focuses on combining the postures with breath work throughout the whole practice.
Mm-hmm.
Me a better parent. So I have just over the past 15 years really experienced so many benefits from yoga, whether it was physical practice, increased mobility, increased concentration, and just less anxiety and more calm in general. And I think when you experience all those things, it really inspires you to share those benefits with others. So a couple years ago, I created Yoga Next Door, which
I love the name, by the way.
Thank you. So I finished my teacher training and I started teaching neighbors and friends right in our living room. And then last year we moved out to our 3-season porch, and I could have 6 students at a time, and we filled that up.
Wow.
And last year we expanded the porch to the space that is around me now, and now I have a real yoga studio right attached to our house. And one of the reasons I wanted it in our home is because we live about 20 minutes from everything in Maine, but we're still in a populated neighborhood. And for me, as a mom, it took me 30 minutes to get to a yoga studio. I would practice for over an hour and then get home. So doing yoga took about 2 to 2.5 hours out of my day. So I wanted to bring some yoga right into my neighborhood and make it more accessible for people in my community, which we did. And then the coronavirus hit, and that spurred taking the whole show online with live online classes and recordings. And I've also created a YouTube channel called Yoga at Your Door to put free content out there. But that's how Anne and I have been able to connect. So that's my yoga story in a nutshell.
So you know what I find so interesting is, and I totally get it because I'm with you, the yoga experience I love. I love being committed to my mat and just what it gives to you. I mean, the physical release is great and it keeps you in shape, but the emotional is equally, if not even more so, like a benefit. But it's an interesting thing. How did you notice, like you wanted to explore the switch from experiencing it yourself? Because the whole teaching and sharing it with others, I mean, it really is kind of that, it's a big switch because it becomes about sharing to yourself and then sharing with others. How, like, what pulled you to do that?
That's a really good question. I think when I started my teacher training, part of me just wanted to deepen my practice, but I trained with the woman, Katie O'Connell, who I did a retreat with in New Hampshire. She is just an amazing, inspiring vinyasa yoga teacher. So I always knew I wanted to train with her. But part of the reason I wanted to become a teacher is because I loved this retreat that I went on with her, and it was very transformational for me. And I love Maine, and my family and my husband's family, we have cottages on an island here in Maine, and I just, from that first retreat with Katie, could see myself bringing people together for healing yoga experiences at Weston's Island. So that was part of it. But the other piece, when I did my training and I stepped into the role of teacher, when I am teaching, I am just so present in that moment, and my busy mind, other stuff isn't coming in. I'm just the teacher, and it's very centering and grounding for me. And it helped me move past a lot of the stuff I was dealing with my own body. So
yeah,
when I'm teaching, I can do that pose. I can demonstrate that pose. I can balance. But maybe if I'm the student, I'm saying, oh, maybe if I do that, it's going to make my hip get irritated and I should be a little more careful. So it was this strong drive to share yoga, share Maine, but also how focused and in the moment I am when I am teaching, and how healing that has been for me over the past couple of years. So
Yeah, that's a really cool way to explain it, because there is what you've really talked about is the two-way communication and connecting between yourself when you're teaching with the students in words that you use, like healing, and communication and supporting, and also the empowerment and strength you get from each other. And what I love is that's what you feel on the Zoom as well. Like when you do it live on the Zoom is kind of that energy and that connection back and forth it's there, and it's real, and it's live. And I think which I should say, and I should have said this earlier, but it's May 8th, 2020. So we're, I don't know how many months, weeks, days are we into this whole Corona crisis?
But yeah, I've lost track.
7 weeks. But I think it's really important to note that, because if we talk in another 2 weeks, we may have a little bit different story. But right now, like, that connection is really, I miss the studio, but I have to say, I don't miss it as much as I thought, because over Zoom, connecting with you and how you teach, you really have that connection with people. Is it the same for you as well?
I definitely feel like I drop into my teacher zone.
Yeah.
I very much look for people back in the studio. I do think there's a group energy where we hold each other up, but we try to recreate a little bit of that before and after classes, like opening it up and chatting and asking questions, and then saying goodbye and fielding any more questions that are out there.
I love it.
Yeah, I still feel like I drop in and I'm fully present as a teacher, even in a Zoom class. And it's great to connect with people from really far away, but it'll be really good when the studio can reopen. But I think we still have a little ways to go, for sure.
Yeah, we do. And I do think, what you're doing and putting yourself out there and just experimenting. I mean, you're throwing so many people, I have the vision of, the life ring from the boat, or from like your pool and so on. And yeah, I mean, people are hopping on your raft, they're being pulled in, and it's really great what you're doing. So thank you for extending yourself and also opening it up to others to join you. So I have another inquisitive question here, which I love your story, but is, so many people, I mean, we used to say it as kind of like a saying, excuse me, like, everybody has something that keeps them up at night. But now I think, like, we all have something in our head that keeps us up at night. We all talk about that, but let's talk about how we wake up in the morning. Like, so what do you do to get you out of bed, to keep you going? How do you motivate yourself to stay up, be positive, and you kind of transfer that to other people?
That's a great question. I enjoy mornings. I try to get up early, because when you have 3 kids, 3 boys, we're now home all the time. That's my time to myself. So I get up so that I can have my cup of tea and my fizz, my Arbonne fizz. And I'm teaching first thing in the morning, or I'm doing my yoga practice. So it's having that quiet time, taking care of myself before I start the day. But I'm really passionate and inspired about what I'm doing right now. I have really enjoyed the kind of problem-solving aspect of taking the studio online and still reaching people with my yoga, even during COVID-19. And my boys get me up every morning in a good way, not like they're noisy. But I really need to be as present as I can be for them right now. I think the more grounded and calm we can be, the more comforting and loving and stable we can be for them, helping them homeschool and just emotionally deal with being home all the time. And for some kids, not mine, but for some kids, not being able to go outside, or not being able to play with people like you usually are. So it's it's passion for what I'm doing right now, trying to be my best self for my boys and make sure I get my time in before the day really starts.
Yeah, I feel like even just the way you explained it, I almost look at it like each morning is a fresh canvas, and then you decide how you want to paint it, right? And you totally just said, you know, you wake up and you've got to fuel yourself so
Yeah.
that you can fuel and set the pace for the family. And it's so important. And yeah, having young kids who, I mean, the only reason they want to sit in front of screens is to play whatever game is hot. You know, I don't know what's hot these days. So yeah, to think about like doing schoolwork or doing something more serious isn't. Yeah, you got to set the tone for the day. That's awesome. So I have one more question, and it's where do you draw your inspiration from? Because we talked about a lot about inspiration, but where do you personally draw your inspiration from? What source?
That's another great question. As you know from my yoga classes, I read a lot of yoga books, and I think that's an important part of my practice, just coming around again and again to the philosophy and spirituality of yoga. And I like to kind of crack the door open for my students in that regard. Before I did my teacher training, yoga was just about the physical, the asana practice, but there's so much more out there. So I draw a lot of inspiration from the books, my yoga books. One that I always read from is Rolf Gates' Meditation from the Mat. I loved Sean Korn's Revolution of the Soul this year. So those are two of my favorites right now. I draw inspiration from my teacher, Katie. I draw inspiration from my students. It's really exciting and motivating to see people positively responding to your teachings and feeling better in their bodies or feeling calmer. That gets you out of bed in the morning too, and inspires you to keep giving it your all. I have a lot of students that practice multiple times a week, so I really want to, each time they come to the mat, give them a varied experience from their last class and make sure they're getting a really good full body yoga experience across their week on the mat. So those sorts of things inspire me.
Oh, those are good books. I think I'm going to have to Google them or get them through Amazon, now that Amazon's still delivering. Those are good tips.
Get it while you can.
Yeah, exactly. Get it while you can. Okay. Last final question, which is the cherry on the top. I tried to come up with a good one for you. So something fun. So this is it. You're in yoga class and someone walks in and it's a surprise to you and you get to choose. It can be a character from anything like a book, a story, a TV, or a real life person, but they're coming into your class. And who would it be? Why? And kind of what would that all look like to you and feel like?
Sure.
Does that
I don't think I'm gonna be able to pull a famous person out or somebody from a book right now. I'm just so in the now right now. I feel like that's kind of been a secret to this quarantine, sheltering at home thing, just being here now. I would love to see the unexpected yoga student walk through the door. So like my dad, who is a salty New Englander, who has worked construction his whole life. So man, his body could use a stretch. But another great example, just from this week, my friend down in Virginia has been practicing in the Wednesday morning classes, and her husband hurt his back. And she said, why don't you try one of these yoga classes? And he is a runner and a weightlifter and not your typical yoga student.
Right.
But he has found he started with one of the little YouTube yoga breaks on the Yoga at Your Door channel. for back body opening, and he really liked it. And then I sent him a class recording from this week. So it's the people that I wouldn't think would try a yoga class, or they think they would never respond to yoga, that I'd love for them to come and just try it out and experience some of the unanticipated benefits. So getting those non-traditional students into the studio.
That's cool. Yeah, and I love those two examples. So when's your dad showing up on Thursday mornings? I can hardly wait to meet him.
That would be amazing.
We'll have to work on that. Well, that's all I had. I thought that would be fun to talk about. And I think we covered a lot of really great stuff. Do you want to just let everybody know who's watching a couple of the ways to get in touch with you?
Sure. The easiest way is to go to my website, yoganextdoor.wordpress.com, and all the information about my online offerings is there, information about the retreats that I do up here in Maine that Anne has come to.
Oh, I love them. Yeah, shout out for those.
Hope will be on in September, fingers crossed. But Anne, thank you so much for this opportunity. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.
And thank you for coming. This was really great. And I hope that everybody can see that, in this time, we're all extraordinary people doing extraordinary things, because we're getting up and we're making this happen. And even people watching this, I honor you for sticking on as long as you have, and for hopefully learning something and making 2 new friends. So thank you. Let's motivate each other and stay together. Thanks so much, Jess.
No problem.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Yeah, bye.